There have been some harrowing developments in the most recent episode of 911, but one specific detail provides a glimmer of hope that a 911 Lone Star reunion could be on the horizon. After 911 Season 8, Episode 9's twist ending left clear room for Eddie to leave 118, there's been speculation on what the series will look like after his return to Texas. Eddie's 911 return is already confirmed, but there are few details about how his Texas storyline will play into the rest of the show. Given how many fans simply weren't ready for 911 Lone Star to end when it did, it would be great if this trip to Texas involved a few appearances by some familiar faces. Season 8, Episode 9, Sob Stories, is already among 9-11's best episodes for several reasons, but one of those reasons is that Eddie's story arc provides a clear path to the possible return of Lone Star's cancelled characters. And there are actually a couple of different ways the series might use Eddie's storyline to accomplish this. Eddie's Texas storyline is confirmed to play out in 911 Season 8. Just because he's leaving doesn't mean he's gone for good. After spending most of the episode sabotaging Eddie's attempts to find a subletter and trying to replace his best friend with a beagle, Buck makes way for Eddie's departure by subletting Eddie's place himself. Eddie's now free to go back to El Paso and live closer to Christopher, which 911 co-creator Tim Minney confirms will play out on screen. It's not exactly clear how long Eddie will remain in Texas or if he'll be returning later with Christopher by his side, but his time on the series certainly isn't over. It's equally possible that Eddie's departure will wind up taking him in an entirely different direction. Spending more time with Christopher doesn't mean Eddie has to stay in Texas for good, but he and Christopher could always decide to spend some time traveling together. That would provide an easy justification for finding Eddie in Tennessee just in time for 9-11's Nashville spin-off. But with Eddie in Texas for the time being, fans will naturally be more interested to see whether the series throws any love to its former Lone Star cast. Eddie's 911 Season 8 Texas arc makes a Lone Star crossover easier to pull off. El Paso is less than a day's trip away from Austin. Mojon, Natasha Karam, and Eddie, Ryan Guzman, on 911 Lone Star Season 2 Episode 3. While many fans are simply hoping that Buck renting Eddie's place is setting up a Buck and Eddie romance in the future, the possibility that Eddie could be in Texas for a decent amount of time makes it perfectly reasonable that he and Chris might make the 8-hour drive from El Paso to Austin at some point. Even keeping him in El Paso still leaves the door open for a Lone Star character or two to roll through town for one reason or another, perhaps simply passing through when an ill-timed disaster offsets their course. Eddie's Texas arc on 911 opens more doors for some Lone Star characters to appear than others. Owen doesn't even live in Texas after Lone Star's conclusion, and the show's failure to even mention Grace after the finale's time skip made it feel like her Mercy ship is just never coming back. But Eddie established excellent rapport with Judd and Mojon in Lone Star's Season 2 crossover episode, so seeing him reunited with one or both characters would be a welcome development. Why a Lone Star reunion is perfect for 911 right now. The show needs something uplifting to follow Maddie's dark storyline. Maddie, looking distressed, on the phone in 911. Season 8 of 911 is heating up a lot right now, with Sob Stories setting up one of the darkest story arcs in the series. Maddie's shocking storyline in 911 in which she encourages a kidnapper to take his own life was heavy enough, and the grave memory of that scene is likely going to linger with fans through much of Maddie's upcoming abduction episode. After so much darkness, it would be nice to see the series take a somewhat more light-hearted turn, and a Lone Star reunion can provide just the positive vibe the series needs to help fans recover emotionally. There's also the concern that Jennifer Love Hewitt's upcoming film role in the newest installment of I Know What You Did Last Summer might mean at least a temporary departure from the show, likely justified by Maddie needing time off after the events of her current story arc. With a fan-favorite character riding the bench for a few episodes, it would be nice to see 911 bring back a few other familiar faces to make up for her absence. Eddie living just a few hours from Austin makes that easier than ever.